IGN is no stranger to controversy when it comes to their game reviews, with such gems like Too Much Water from their Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire Pokemon review, among many others, or being lovingly referred to as 7GN. They have definitely had their fair share of hot takes and fumbles. And personally, I do think everyone is entitled to their opinion and do not always have to agree. In fact, I think that's bad for the games industry. I don't want it to be a hive mind where everyone likes and hates all of the same things. Now, with that said, I think IGN's latest review does warrant some criticism, especially when you compare it to some of their more recent scores. It does kind of draw into question what even is their rating scale at this point. So we're going to take a look at IGN's review for Mouse P.I for Hire today, and we're going to react to the video live. Now, before we get into that, I just want you to keep in mind that this is the same outlet that gave Concord, a game that shut down 2 weeks after it launched because it had no players, a 7 out of 10. They also gave Highguard a 7 out of 10. The game we are about to see them review, Mouse P.I for Hire, got a 6 out of 10, meaning that they think this game is worse than both Highguard and Concord. And I just checked because I mentioned Highguard and Concord, but IGN apparently gave Marathon a whopping 9 out of 10, a near perfect score. So I say all of that to let you know how IGN rates shooters. I mean, they don't have the best track record, clearly, so, hearing that they gave this game a 6 out of 10, you would think, wow, it must be pretty bad if those games got 7s. And having played Mouse P.I for Hire, even though I have not yet finished the game, I can definitely tell you it is not as bad as this review is going to make it out to be. So with all of that said, let's hear what IGN thinks of Mouse P.I for Hire.
I love noir. I'll take all kinds. The hard-boiled detective, the seedy crime story, neo-noir, classic pulp, you name it, I'm buying.
Okay.
So when Mouse P.I for Hire sauntered onto my screen the way Ilsa walks into Rick's in Casablanca, I was pretty excited about it. But noir isn't just an aesthetic to be thrown on like an old coat as you're leaving your office at the behest of a leggy blonde. While Mouse P.I for Hire clearly understands the style and tropes of classic noir films and novels as well as 1930s cartoons more broadly, it doesn't seem to get why those things are there or how they're used to tell compelling stories. By fusing a hard-boiled detective mystery with a fast, retro-styled FPS, developer Fumi Games has made a shooter that is thematically incoherent, with the apparent aspirations of its story contradicted at every point by the actual action.
Alright, so right off the bat, you can immediately tell the reviewer does not like this game. It sounds like he takes a lot of issues with this not being a particularly good, in his opinion at least, telling of a noir story. And I'm just going to be honest, when I picked up Mouse P.I for Hire, I was not expecting this to be on par with, the noir masterpieces of history. I mean, you're playing as a mouse with a gun. I wasn't expecting top tier writing in this game. Not to say that that excuses bad writing by any means, but in my experience, this game has delivered up to my expectations on its writing quality. And personally, I really enjoy the noir aesthetic combined with that retro shooter gameplay. I don't feel like they clash at all, but maybe that's just me. I don't know what this reviewer was expecting when he saw this game. I mean, everyone could see that it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to the old Mickey Mouse cartoons. So personally, when I opened up this game, I expected a lot of puns and references to old media, but I guess this guy did not. He was expecting a very serious noir story, maximum 5 cheese jokes, maybe 2 references to Mickey Mouse, and that's about it. Like, how do you walk into a game like this with this mindset? I just genuinely don't understand. There are plenty of good noir stories out there that take themselves very seriously, but I don't know how you look at Mouse P.I for Hire and think that that's what you're gonna get with this game. I do think that some responsibility for expectations falls on the consumer at some point. If the marketing of this game sold it as a super serious story, then I would say this guy has all the right to be upset that it didn't match his expectations, but not once during the marketing of this game did I ever get that vibe.
This is charming initially, then it never stops. Everything is a reference to the fact that everyone is a mouse and mice like cheese, and when it's not, instead it'll be a reference to an old cartoon, or the fact that this is a video game.
When you jump, just act like you didn't.
I should have probably guessed the former when one of the first things I saw was a steamboat named Willie, but at least that and the reference-heavy power-ups are cute. Constant callbacks to classic films or other video games? Not so much. And it doesn't end there. A boss fight in the sewers? It's a literal alligator because of course it is.
Whoa. Okay, we have to slow down. You are telling me you are taking points off of this game because there is an alligator boss fight in the sewer. What the fuck else is it supposed to be? Do you want it to be another fucking mouse because you're complaining about that? If they take the alligator out of the sewer, would that be better? I mean, did you get mad when Resident Evil 2 had a boss fight with an alligator in the sewer? Like, genuinely, what the fuck is he complaining about? Oh my god, dude, there's an alligator in the sewer. So cliche. Yeah, the entire game is cliche. That's kind of the fucking point. But we're only 2.5 minutes into this review and already he's spewing bullshit complaints like what kind of criticism is that? The mice like cheese and there's alligators in the sewer. My god, dude, you cannot make this up.
If you're looking for the cheese-liking foreman, Jack will quip that he doesn't look like much of a boss.
More like a mini boss.
And then laugh at his own joke. The voice actors, led by Troy Baker, do an admirable job with what they have, but nothing in Mouseburg is allowed to just be. It has to be a mouse reference, or a literally cheesy one-liner.
Cheddar. What's wrong with Gouda?
Okay, so his problem with Mouseburg, a city inhabited by mice, is that it feels like there are too many mice references and cheese jokes. Okay, so again, you're criticizing the setting of this game for leaning into its ridiculousness. Yes, in a city of mice, everything is going to be seen through the lens of a mouse. Everything referenced is going to have that flavor to it. I don't know what you expected. The game is called Mouse P.I. for Hire. You play as a mouse with a gun who shoots other mice and alligators, apparently. Like, what are they supposed to do? Just pretend that they don't know that they're mice? Because I feel like that would be even more jarring. The whole point of this game is it's a cheesy take, no pun intended, on a classic noir detective story over some boomer shooter gameplay. That is what it was sold as, and that's what you got. You can't be mad that it didn't live up to your entirely different expectation that you made up yourself.
At least the shooting is better. This is the latest in a wave of boomer shooters inspired by old-school FPSs like Doom or Quake, and it's a decent one at that. You start with a pistol in Jack's fists, but you'll soon acquire a shotgun, dynamite, a James gun, which is just a Tommy gun, and more unique stuff like the Devarnisher, which shoots what looks like Elmer's glue that melts the flesh from your enemy's bones, leaving only a skeleton. Throw in stuff like a double jump, dash, spinning tail for hovering, and a slide, and Jack's got some stylish moves when the bad guys show up. This ain't Quake, but it does feel good. It doesn't hurt that all of it, from reload animations to random conversations, is rendered in an absolutely gorgeous black and white mix of sprite work and 3D models. The world building may be thin, but Mouse P.I. for Hire is still dressed to the nines.
Pretty sure this is about the only positive thing he says about the game. You know, the most important part of a video game, the gameplay, he says is pretty solid. Now, how you'll give a game a 6 out of 10 even though you say it has amazing gameplay, I genuinely don't understand. To me, I care way more about gameplay than story, especially in a game like this, where the story really just needs to be good enough to give you a reason to care about the gameplay. It doesn't need to be some mind-blowing masterpiece that competes with noir cinema. But hold on, guys, because we have not even gotten to the best part of this review yet.
Even here, though, I have issues. Weapons can feel weak, especially the shotgun. It's got the audio kick of a pop gun, and there's a strange disconnect to seeing something that sounds like a kid's toy blow off some poor mouse's head as you paint the white of the world with black ichor that spews from his neck. Enemies mostly come out of doors marked with a skull that you can't enter, robbing these areas of anything remotely resembling a sense of place. Levels also really like to pull the "we're gonna lock you in a room and throw baddies at you until they're dead or you are" shtick a little too much for my taste. None of this is game-breaking. The combat is fundamentally good enough to carry you to the end of the roughly 12-hour campaign, but sometimes it feels like being at a show that's never quite bad enough to leave. And at least on the normal difficulty, health items are so generous there's rarely a challenge.
Okay, so I'm not even going to touch on the fact that he's complaining about where enemies come from, because pretty much any boomer shooter follows that same formula. I don't know if this is his first shooter or what, but I feel like that's kind of irrelevant. I do find it kind of hilarious, though, that he complains about normal difficulty not being challenging enough. I am pretty sure that is what the harder difficulties are for. If you don't find normal challenging enough, you amp up the difficulty. I don't know, that's how I've played literally every shooter in my entire life, but apparently I'm wrong, and normal difficulty is supposed to be the most challenging. And just as a side note, what is this weird trend where every game needs to be absurdly challenging? Not everything needs to be fucking Dark Souls level difficult. Sometimes I just want to shoot and kill stuff and not have to think too much while I'm doing it. And if I'm playing on normal difficulty, it's probably because I don't want to stress about the challenge. And I'm pretty sure most other people playing this game, or any other shooter for that matter, will tell you the same exact thing. That is why these games have difficulty options. So you have the option to make it more challenging. It would be one thing if you played on the hardest difficulty and said, yep, still too easy, but you're playing on normal and complaining about the challenge level? Like, come on, dude.
Like any good boomer shooter, there are plenty of secrets to find: newspapers, weapon upgrade schematics, baseball cards, and so on. Fragile walls to blow up, and even locked safes to open with your tail, which pulls double duty as a lockpick. Some of these locks are on a time limit, or must be solved in a limited number of moves, and you only get one shot at the good stuff they hold. Others are so easy you could probably solve them by letting an actual mouse run across your keyboard.
Okay, so there are easy puzzles and hard puzzles. You mean like this game's biggest inspiration? BioShock?
What I like less is the whole being a detective thing, mostly because I never actually got to do it. Any clues you find will be pinned to Jack's caseboard, and once you get them there, Jack will just intuit where to go. No work on your part required. What's the point of being a gumshoe if all the answers are handed right to me?
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to genuinely ask this question, but was anybody expecting with this game to get like an actual detective story with slow, methodical detective gameplay? I don't remember that being sold in the marketing at all. The only thing I remember this game being pitched as is a retro shooter with a noir aesthetic in a nice mouse cartoon inspired world. And again, that's exactly what I got, at least in my experience so far. I was not expecting to have to solve grand mysteries or actually put on the hat of a detective and figure things out. That's just the setting. That's just the context you're being given for why you're doing things in this world. I don't think the intent was to create a detective video game. So again, you're judging this game off of something that it wasn't even setting out to do or marketing itself as. Which again, if the game did market itself that way, then yeah, I always hold that against the developer and the publisher, because they need to know how to market their games effectively, but that's not the case here. This guy's just mad that this game didn't live up to the false reality that he created in his head, and I don't know how any game developer or publisher is supposed to compete with that. They cannot possibly account for your delusional ideas that you've created about their game.
That brings me to one of my major problems with Mouse P.I. for hire. Look, I hate to be that guy who brings up ludonarrative dissonance in a video game review in the year of our Lord 2026, and if you're rolling your eyes right now, I can't blame you, but it's an actual issue here. Jack Pepper is a PI who kills more people in a single mission than Philip Marlowe has in every book Raymond Chandler ever wrote combined. I don't care how corrupt the cops are. A private detective can't break into a police station and slaughter them en masse and then go about his day. In one particularly nonsensical scenario, Jack inadvertently burns down an opera house to save a guy running for mayor, and he ends up fighting an opera singer and shoots her. Is she dead? Did I just kill an actress for being angry I burned down her workplace? If I didn't, have I left her alive and unconscious inside a burning building?
Well, Billy Stone did get blown to Kingdom Come.
Mouse P.I. for hire doesn't tell me, and it doesn't seem to care either way.
Oh my god, dude. You cannot be serious. This guy is complaining about the amount of enemies you kill in a shooter. Do I need to remind you the genre of game you are playing? It is a first-person shooter. It wouldn't be a very fun experience if there were only 5 people, or I guess mice in this case, to shoot and the game was over. Like, you cannot seriously be using that as an example of ludonarrative dissonance in a video game, because if you are, that applies to pretty much every video game that even has a modicum of combat in it. It seems like for all his complaints about the story, he did not pay attention to the story, because these examples that he cites here with the police station and the theater were both pretty much taken over by thugs. So no, you're not breaking into the police station and shooting up all the cops. You're breaking into the police station and eliminating the thugs who have taken it over, and same with the theater. For someone who complained about the story not being deep enough for him, you think he would know that, but apparently he wasn't paying attention, which makes you wonder how he was even able to criticize the story in the first place.
Much of Elliot Chase's seminal novel Black Wings Has My Angel is about robbing an armored car, but the book builds to that. It's a big deal when it finally happens, and the characters have to reckon with the fallout once it does. Jack Pepper, on the other hand, is a walking catastrophe, and nobody in Mouseburg seems to care. He largely gets to go about his business and is portrayed as a down-on-his-luck everyman PI, like the characters who inspired him, when he is, at best, a mass murderer. Does that make for a more fun video game? Maybe. But it's bad noir and a worse detective tale. In the story as Mouse P.I. for hire references, violence is an unfortunate but unavoidable part of the human experience that shatters the people it touches. Here, it's just entertainment, and that weakens the whole concept. But Will, you might say, this is a goofy Looney Tunes FPS. Why should I care about any of that? And the answer is because Mouse wants you to. It wants you to believe that this is important.
Again, you can label pretty much any video game protagonist who engages in combat a mass murderer if this is the logic we're going to follow. It's a video game first and foremost, and you're comparing it to the best-selling noir books and noir masterpiece films that saying it has to justify why the protagonist is engaging in all this violence. Like, dude, it is a video game. It is a first-person shooter. If there are not people to shoot, it is not a good game. Again, I just genuinely don't understand what is so difficult to grasp about that. Newsflash, buddy, the violence you engage in every other video game is also just for entertainment. Like, do you think there's some deeper philosophical meaning to why you're killing demons in Doom? Or why you're destroying the Covenant in Halo? Like, I don't understand. Does he apply this logic to every video game he plays, or is it just Mouse P.I. for hire? The game does not want you to care about this shit. The game wants you to care just enough to engage in the gameplay systems that they have created for you. Nowhere in this game's presentation or marketing do they sell it as some super rich storytelling experience or compare it to the noir masterpieces that you're citing. I am so sick of these game reviewers projecting their stupid expectations onto games that never promised those things in the first place. Show me one example where the game tells you that it really wants you to care this much about the story and, quote, ludonarrative dissonance.
Mouse P.I. for Hire nails the aesthetics of both the 1930s cartoons and the detective stories that inspired it. And it's also an amusing boomer shooter that largely feels good as you're playing it.
These first two positives that he mentions should be all that matters for most people who picked up this game. That it nails the art direction that it was going for, and it has great gameplay. That is all anyone who picked up this game wanted. Don't sit here and tell me that you were expecting this masterpiece of storytelling. Like, those are the only two things that I personally and many others wanted from this game. The fact that you created a false expectation about what the story was going to deliver is not the fault of the developer.
But its haphazard marriage of noir storytelling tropes and shooter gameplay are often at odds with each other in uncomfortable ways that weaken both aspects. And the writing is so busy making references to other things that it's actually painful to sit through at times. This FPS is solid enough if you just want to blast some cartoon mice and not think about it too hard, but once you do, all you'll see are the seams where disparate ideas have been fused together.
Well, luckily for you, IGN, that is exactly why I picked up this game, so it is great to hear that I will love it. But that's pretty much the end of the review, guys. I did skip a few segments where he was just droning on about his favorite noir films and books, because it honestly was just pretentious and annoying and didn't really add anything to the review other than reinforcing his weird expectations that were already pretty clearly established. And personally, I think this review just highlights a lot of the problems people have with modern games journalism and the game industry in general. Not every game is setting out to be a cinematic storytelling masterpiece. And yes, when it comes to a video game, gameplay is more important than anything. I don't care what anybody says. If I'm not having fun playing something, I don't care how good the story is or how good the art direction is. I'm not going to want to continue playing it. That goes for every other medium. Like, you wouldn't watch a movie that's shot poorly or read a book full of grammar errors and bad prose. No, it has to be executed well in the medium that it's chosen to be presented in. If games journalists had their way, every game would be the exact same thing. And I don't want every video game to be the fucking same. I want my narrative-driven games to be narrative-driven games. I want my hack and slash or my boomer shooters to feel like hack and slash or boomer shooter games. And if that means they come with a great story, awesome, that's fantastic, but it should not be the focal point. And again, whether I was playing a game like Ninja Gaiden or Doom or really anything else, I've never really thought about, wow, I'm killing way too many people for this to be believable. Yeah, it's called a video game. It's padded out like that for a reason. Because if it was realistic in that regard, it wouldn't be very fun to play. Realism should never trump gameplay, and that is something that the greatest designers of our industry have always stood by. This whole review just comes off like a pretentious theater kid wishing he was reviewing noir movies or books, and mad that this game didn't hold up to his completely unrealistic expectation, and is just another low for the credibility of games journalists. Now, I am going to get back to playing Mouse P.I. for hire because I actually enjoy the game, but I would love to hear you guys sound off in the comments below on what you think of Mouse P.I. for hire. Have you played it? Are you going to play it? Be sure to let me know what you're thinking of the game, and also just of this review, because I just found it absolutely baffling. I mean, again, everyone is completely entitled to their opinion. I'm also entitled to think your opinion is stupid. So here we are. But I think that's going to do it for this video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like or a dislike dislike if you didn't. I appreciate the feedback either way. And with all of that said, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.